My name is Anne, and I was studying at the university. I was studying psychology back in 2016 when I, out of the blue, was exposed to what is known as organized stalking. And what is organized stalking? That is the same as stalking, but it is a network. People working together, targeting specific people for many reasons. And they harass and they stalk and they surveil this person. And that's what I was exposed to back in 2016. And my whole life, honestly, I was completely in a state of shock. So I had to sell my apartment after a year, and I bought a car instead of. That was back in August 2017. And I bought a hunting camera and placed it under my car because I was on the run and often had to sleep in my car. And the first evidence is a shooting incident taking place outside my car. I am sleeping and a car is driving up next to mine, 4 o'clock in the morning. And you can hear actually a man saying, the sound quality is very, very bad because it's a hunting camera. But you can actually hear a man saying, yes, our car is parked here. Okay, do you want me to shoot? And then a shot is fired and he rushed off in his car. And the week before I slept at the same place in my car also, and because I was on the run. A week before there was another incident where I also had put my hunting camera underneath my car, and there you see a car coming towards me with high speed, and the high beam turned on, or I could at least see it in the mirror in my car, but the hunting camera doesn't start before it senses this thing going on, so you only see parts of the situation. And then it stops behind me and stays there for a while before it drives back to the main road, and also in high speed. And I suppose it's intimidation, both the shooting incident and this high beam incident. So these are my first two evidence that I'm actually exposed to organized crime, organized stalking. And then 1 week later, I'm again exposed to a shooting incident. And this time 3 shots are being fired, and the camera was placed under my car, but due to the sensor it didn't register this car coming into this place where I was sleeping in my car. And now I'm very scared. So that was also in August 2017. So I go to the police and I show them this evidence that I have just mentioned and filmed and showed you. And they started an investigation. And 2 weeks later I go back and they say, but the investigation is closed. And I can see when I received this note from this report I made back in 2017, that my file was already, my case was already closed in the same day. The same day as I went to the police with this video evidence, despite the fact that I've been going to the police for 1 year and complaining and trying to make them help me, despite the fact that I now had evidence. I was completely devastated. And then you can ask why. Why don't the police help me? That's up to others to judge. I am not going to answer that question. Of course I have my own opinion, but the latest complaint I made was back in 2024. I slowly start to make less and less complaints because every time I complain, every time I bring evidence, they tell me that there's nothing we can do about it. So the last complaint I made was back in early 2024, and now we are 2025. And it was about cybercriminality, and I called them after several months saying, well, I made this complaint, and what are you going to do about it?
Velkommen til Dansk Politi.
Ja, det drejer sig om noget cyberkriminalitet. En del anmeldelser, jeg har lavet igennem her i løbet af år, som skulle være sendt videre til Vordingborg politi.
Hvad har du, og jeg kan gå efter et journalnummer eller et eller andet, hvis du har lavet så mange, siger du? Jeg sidder og læser lidt her.
Ja.
Det er også noget med dine telefoner, som er overtaget.
Det er alt.
Cyberkriminelle, ja.
Det er alt, hvad jeg ejer og har.
Nej, altså du er blevet klagevejledt tidligere, fra blandt andet 4. juni. Det er ikke noget, politiet kan gå ind i det her, hvem det er, der har overtaget din computer og dine telefoner og sådan lidt forskelligt. Det er det altså ikke. Jeg kan desværre ikke hjælpe dig yderligere. Du må have en god dag.
Det var politiet, jeg talte med der. Lige et øjeblik her. Det er Anne.
This call is from Danish Police Force. This call is to inform you that there are some suspicious activities going on under your personal information and CPR number. We have issued an arrest warrant under your name. In order to talk to our investigation officer, please press 1.
Altså, hvad i himlens navn? Det virker mærkeligt, det her. Det tror jeg ikke på, der. Hvad foregår der? Jeg slukker den igen. And the interesting thing about this arrest warrant, of course it was not a real arrest warrant. Why should it be in English then? The interesting thing about it was that there was actually a number that I could dial up, and it turned out to be a nice Swedish lady. So I believe it's what is known as spoofing. Caller ID spoofing. You are actually able to use other people's phone number to disguise your identity, if you know how, of course. But so I believe it's spoofing because I don't believe somebody called from this woman's number. As I said in the beginning, I was talking about how organized stalking harass, stalk and surveil targets. And the goal is to kind of discredit them. So I have a few sorry, I have notes here if I forget something. So I have a few examples of how they discredit in a very in a way that's very hard for others to see, but that is clearly meant for you, so you can't miss it as a target, but others can't see it because it's kind of the tactics are hidden. And the first thing I want to show, the first example I want to show is I was working while I was studying at the University for Psychology. I was working with children and talking to them on the phone if they had problems, issues at home, and even parents also. And then I called my employer, I wrote her an email, and she was like, by the way, it's in Danish, this email. By the way, somebody has called our headquarters anonymously and saying they are very, very concerned that you are working here, and they don't find you fit for talking to parents and their children, since you have mental issues yourself and is going in and out of hospitals. And that is smear campaign, but it also says how much they have to know about me to know where I work. And and I did also go to the mental institution back in early 2017 for 2 weeks in an open facility, not because of mental issues, but because I was stressed out because of the situation and I didn't know where to go. I have never been hospitalized before, and it also says in the journal, and never after either. Only those 2 weeks in the beginning. So if this person knew that, they are also lying, because I went there because of organized stalking in the beginning of all of this. Another example I would like to show is a couple of pictures. When you are being stalked, you are almost never being stalked by the same person. It's always different persons. It's very seldomly that you see the same person, but these two pictures actually show the same person. And the first picture is from a library where I'm sitting writing my master thesis, and the other picture is from a place where I'm sitting at a cafe, also trying to write my master thesis in the middle of all this chaos. So I have to kind of find places where I can work for a couple of hours. And if you look at the last picture from the place, you can see that a lot of people is in the picture, and nobody but this guy in the back of the picture is looking at me, and he's staring directly at me. So that is also kind of noticeable, since nobody else is aware of me taking this photo. And also the last video I want to show is from the same period, where I'm sitting in my car and a car drives up next to me, and he's actually filming me, and then he waves and then he drives off. And then I grab my camera and I film him. I have my camera beside me all the time because I try to document as much as possible. And how did he know where I was? How do they always know where I am? That's a good question. So if you, for instance, take this shooting incidents and this high beam incident and this person sitting at the place, you will also notice that they are taken within the same few weeks. So that's also the intensity should also say that this is an example of stalking. And it's very important for me to prove these things and to make people see this is not coincidence. This is actually evidence of covert crimes being committed against me without others noticing it. The next example I want to show is one of the most serious examples. It is when I'm being hit by a brick on the windshield of my car while I'm driving at the highway. For some reason it just bounced off and went over the roof. And the sound is not very good because I'm sitting with my dictaphone, so it's recorded by with a dictaphone. Nej! Hvad er det, der sker? Hvad er det, der sker? Er du sindssyg, mand? Der kom bare en eller anden flyvende. Det var så voldsomt, så lyset faldt ud. Altså, jeg blev ramt af en eller anden, det lignede en mursten. Sætter det lige op igen. Hold da kæft. But that was a very serious incident, and again, they had to be planning that. They had to know I was going on the highway. They had to know I was going to Copenhagen. I had to pick somebody up. Otherwise, this accident couldn't have happened. So that's also an example of how closely you are being monitored when you are stalked. The severity of the situation, this organized stalking situation here in Denmark where I'm living, actually made me flee from Copenhagen and buy a house down here where I'm sitting now. In late 2018 I moved in here. In the beginning, the first year when I moved down here, it was a relief. It still continued, but not in the same, the intensity was completely different because they had to expose themselves. So the way I was targeting was different, and let me show you an example. The first one is a sex ad. One day, so out of the blue, somebody's calling me, and I'm picking up the phone, and it's a man who wants to have sex. And I'm like, what? And then through that I realized, and there was some incidents during that year, also more of them. Through that I realized that somebody had made a sex ad in my name. Kan du gentage det igen, for det bliver altså nødt til at slå op. Annonce, like.
Annonce, like. Odense. Det er sådan en escort, du ved. Bluders, ikke om. Lad os bare kalde det det.
Hold da op. Det må jeg nok sige.
Det er rigtigt. Og
That was another example of that I'm clearly being harassed by people I don't know. The second video I want to show from down here is people start to harass me on my property, and I'm home alone with my dogs when all of a sudden I can hear they start to bark, and I can hear people yelling outside. And by then I have a surveillance camera. I didn't in the beginning, but in 2020 I got a surveillance camera because I could see people were going into my property and breaking things and stuff like that, just harassing me in all possible ways, but not in the same intensity as it was when I was living in Copenhagen. So I got a surveillance system, and it filmed these young guys. And another incident that I would also like to show is I'm home alone, and all of a sudden the car is coming up to my house. I don't know anything. It's surveillance camera. It's recorded by the surveillance camera. And this man enters my property, and he actually breaks into these areas in my on my property which are closed off. And I'm walking around in my house. It's around midnight, and then I go turn on the light in the yard outside my front door, also a locked off facility. And all of a sudden I'm standing face to face with this man on the other side of my door. I have a window in my door. So this was very, very intimidating, and I called the police, and actually they came, but again, they brushed it off as a burglar. I mean, if you look at the evidence, it's clearly not a burglar. Anyway. These are some of the most noticeable incidents that my surveillance camera have filmed, because it clearly became very, very much harder for them after I moved out to this open space, and then later on got a surveillance system. And instead they start to use drones. So I start to see drones flying around my house, and I could see them coming. They were sent up in the air, and then they start to come closer to my house, and then before they came close all the way to my house, they turned off the light, which is illegal here in Denmark. It is so close by, you can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is the most insane thing I have ever seen. I'm afraid to turn off my camera because the light might go out. I will try to zoom into this drone, and I hope my camera will focus on it. There it is. It's right above my property. There it went. But another example is when I'm going home from a city next to where I'm living, and I'm sitting in my car with my computer just to get some privacy due to digital crimes, and all of a sudden, straight away, a car is coming up right behind me, stopping. And that's the same also. It's very classical. No matter where I am, there are 5 at most 5 minutes away. And then I drive home, and at one point, and it's a 20-kilometer long ride, and this car is still behind me. And at one point, I get to a roundabout, and that's where the situation starts to escalate, and they start to drive around in the roundabout after me, chasing me. Og så sidder jeg her, og hvad holder der bag ved mig nu? Der holder som en bil. Nu skal vi se, hvor langt de skal med mig her. Okay, det er spændende det her. Hvad fanden laver du, mand? Hvad fanden, mand? Hvad satan? De går jo helt amok, mand. Jeg tror, at vi skal have fat i politiet her. Også siden de ligger sig bag mig og ligger og stalker mig og ligger og holder bag mig på de her sådan parkerings... Altså de der sådan, hvor man lige kan holde ind, der er lige plads til 1-2 biler, ikke? Så vil jeg da tro, det er nogle af dem.
Samme bil, der gør det, eller?
Nej, det er flere, det er et netværk. Det er et netværk,
der stalker dig,
ja.
Og de kører efter dig i bil.
Ja, du vil kunne slå mig op i systemet, jeg har allerede anmeldt en hel del, altså.
Kunne jeg ikke låne dit CPR-nummer, så jeg kan få registreret det? Anne Helene Have.
Det er mig, ja.
Det er dig, ja. Det kan jeg godt se.